For me, challenging behaviour is it's gritty, isn't it? Because challenging behaviour shows up in so many ways, particularly in our children, right? So we have, emotional meltdowns, tantrums, defiance, we have control, we have all of those things that challenge us. And I always think that challenging behaviour, it's like one of those things that I'm a neurolinguistic programmer, right? So I'm really interested in language and how that shows up. And when I think about challenging behaviour, I think, yes, the very word challenging behaviour is there to challenge us. And if any of you have watched any of my lives, you will know that it's actually my spiritual practices and my spiritual musings on things that have really affected the work that I do in my paid programs and in these lives. And what I find most is if something is challenging you right there, that is the biggest opportunity you have for growth. There is the gap right there. There is your opportunity to increase connection. There is your opportunity to switch from fear to love. Anything that is challenging you, the obstacle is always the path. And the fact that it's challenging you in the first place should be telling you that if you're like keep banging your head up against a brick wall against something, this is something that you need to solve. Now, if any of you've been in my 5 Days to Fierce free coaching series that I do, I talk a lot about children's behaviour is not a behaviour problem. It's a thinking problem. And I still stand by that because one of the things that I know for absolute sure, and you will relate to, is that you cannot control another. And yet when these things come up with our children, so often this is where we start to control. This is where we start forcing situations, or we start using consequences or discipline. And discipline is always a really sort of touchy subject. But for me, like the word discipline, it comes from the word to teach. It means to teach. It doesn't mean to smack your kids or shove them in a room somewhere. What it means is to show them. And we all know, right? Children do not listen to what you say. And if you have children, by the way, that listen to every single word that you say, please tell me what you're doing, because I'm sure that, and it clearly means that I'm doing something wrong. But what I know is that my children don't listen to what I say. But what they do is sorry, my ridiculously childish humour there. What they do is they copy what you are. Children are never going to listen to what you say. They're going to copy what you are. And therefore, the way that you deal with challenging emotions, the way that you handle their emotions, the way that you deal with their control issues, the way that you handle their defiance is going to become the blueprint for how they are going to handle it themselves. Now, challenging behaviour for me, it's like a duality. Because what we're looking at is with challenging behaviour, we are looking at another person's behaviour that often we are trying to either modify or change or control. And if anybody, again, who watched my 5 Days to Fierce, you will know my butterfly story where I had this, and I trust me, because I had tried to change somebody for a really, really long time in my marriage. And there was a real penny drop moment in my life when I realised that you can't change anybody else, and you can't. The only person you can actually change is yourself. And if you see that you are in a relationship with your child, if you imagine how a boat is, any kind of change that you make at this end automatically has a change on the whole relationship and the whole balance, right? So we can't change the behavior in our children. The only thing that we can do is change ourselves. And what's really interesting for me is, like I said, there's this duality because you've got us that are being challenged. And so what it's bringing us is we're attaching meanings to things. We are going in with, we think that we are, where either we feel powerless or we feel helpless or we feel uncomfortable in our children's emotions and we try and shut them down or we invalidate them or we minimize them or because we're uncomfortable with them or we try and control the situation and we want to try to fix that behavior. But of course, what we're forgetting is that there's also what's going on for the child. So everything about behavior is just a communication. It's all it is. It is a direct manifestation of the internal world of thoughts and feelings. And yet our children have no idea what is going on, but your children's behavior is a direct manifestation of what is going on with their thoughts and what is going on with their feelings. So if your children are struggling with transitions and they're trying to control, what is that telling you? What is it that they need you to know? All behavior is communication, right? Are they scared? Are they scared of going to school if you're troubling to get them out in the morning? Are they pushing back against too much control? Because if everything was decided for you, sooner or later you would start to kick back, right? If anybody's ever been in a controlling situation where somebody's literally trying to control your every mood, I think we sometimes forget that our children grow. Our children grow and change, and sometimes we're still treating our 5-year-old the same way that we would treat our 3-year-old. And that's not what's happening, right? So we've got their projection of thoughts and feelings, behavior. What is going on underneath the hood? What is going on for them? And then we've got, what meaning are we attaching to it? What is our expectation? Because where the expectation is, that is always where the stress lies. Always. When what you are expecting to happen is not lining up with actually what is happening, that is always where the stress lies. And remember, we cannot change another. We can only change ourselves. So the question is, are you able to flow like water and go with what is actually happening, observe in the moment, observe your own reactions, and become ultimately, it's your responsibility, your ability to be able to respond to the situation. Now, one of my clients this morning, earlier this week, actually, Sharon, if you're on, hi, I'm talking about you. Sharon brought in this gorgeous situation where she was like, actually, I am responding. I am just going, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And I am responding on autopilot because of either programming, or you ever hear your own mother's voice or your own father's voice, and you are just doing it instantly without questioning whether it's relevant, appropriate, or even fair. I mean, the way that our parents were parenting 20, 30 years ago is completely different to the understandings that we have in parenting today. And that's fine, because there is no judgment. And I genuinely believe that everybody is doing the very best that they can, given their own life experiences. But it means we also have to apply that to our children. Sometimes our expectations of what our children should be capable of, particularly when they don't maybe have yet reasoning. Anybody who's under the age of 6 or 7 doesn't really have pure reasoning skills. I mean, classic. Have you ever said this to your children? I've said this. Will you stop behaving like a child? Or you're being so childish. It's brilliant, isn't it? And yet sometimes we're expecting so much. So before I leave you today, I really invite you to consider, what is your expectation? What is it that you're hoping to happen? How can you take a step back and examine your own reaction? Is it autopilot? Is it relevant? Is it fair? And then can you take a step back and consider what is going on for your child? Because when you are able to do that, you learn to be able to change yourself, the way that you show up, and you can start looking for imaginative ways to turn moments of stress and into moments of fun and connection. Because I did this in my first Facebook group the other day. There is the most incredible speech by Al Pacino, if you've ever seen it, in I want to say the Hunger Games, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing. But he does the most amazing speech about where the inches are everywhere and you feel like you're defeated, but the inches, like every single play that you go for, every single moment of stress is an opportunity for personal growth and to find a way with imagination to turn that into fun, love, and connection. Now, I am going to be running a workshop on this in the next few weeks. If you are interested, please drop me a DM. We're going to be looking very much at reframing challenging situations and turning stress into fun. So please drop me a DM if that is of interest to you. Otherwise, go about your gorgeous day, stay fierce, and please, please, please drop me your biggest drop me a replay if you're watching this back on the replay, and please do leave me your biggest takeaway and what it is that you are going to change. Have an awesome day, people.